Hi there, it's Beauty Junkie. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm getting into a fun video concept that's been done before, but not by me. I am throwing back to my high school makeup days, and I'm going to be trying to apply a full face of makeup using techniques and similar products to what I used to use in high school. Now, I was in high school from 2003 to 2006. I'm 34 now, so you guys understand how much makeup has changed since then. I took a picture of all the different makeup categories that I have in my collection. I sprawled out all the different types of products on my bed just so you guys can visually kind of see what is available now. There's so many different types of categories, subcategories, different foundations, setting powders, setting sprays, eyebrow products that just did not exist in the past. I mean, highlighter and bronzer wasn't really a thing. You guys know this, but when you really break down exactly what has changed just in a short period of time, it's insane. I also took a picture of the product categories that I'm about to use and choose from. It's a much smaller pile. We used a lot. There was a lot less categories back then in terms of makeup. There wasn't as many options. There wasn't a lot of cream products. There was not a lot of powders. Not highlighting wasn't as much of a thing. Brows weren't a thing. Big palettes weren't a thing. So I just want to get into that. Also, people weren't really using sponges to apply foundation. So I was a big cakey mess. Anyways, I thought it would be fun to kind of walk through what I used to do in terms of makeup. I was pretty terrible at it, but I thought I looked good, you know, like most of us do. I'm not much better, but I think my makeup lasts longer now, and it looks a lot better than it did in the past. So let's get into an overview of what kinds of products were available back in the early 2000s. All right, so I'm going to start out with how I used to store my makeup. So this actually happened after high school. I don't really remember how I stored my makeup in high school, to be honest. I don't think it was anything that great. But after high school and college, one time I forgot all my makeup at school by accident. I went home for the holidays, you know, had a winter break and forgot all my makeup. So I guess I thought it would be a good idea to get a giant training case. This is from Sephora professional brand. And this is a huge, I don't know, makeup case that has several, I don't know, layers to it. So you open it up, you can put stuff in here, but you pull it out, it's got like shelving. It's got a deep open pit in the middle at the bottom there where I would put like the bigger stuff. And you could separate this out with little dividers, but this is what I used to use, and it held a lot. I actually used it for many years after college when I didn't have as much makeup, but I had enough to kind of need this huge briefcase type of deal. I don't know, I've always kept it. I thought it was kind of cool, and I just have a lot of memories with it. It used to get real dusty though, but that's how I used to store my makeup. Now I think a lot of us that have a considerable amount of product and palettes, we have drawers, acrylic shelving, all of that. That's what I use now. But there are some things that I use regularly that I'm trying that I keep out on the counter in like a plastic Tupperware case. That is not super attractive, but that's just what I do. In terms of tools that I used to use back in high school, I used like a MAC eye set. This was back when I think their brushes were natural hair. MAC was the thing. I used to have a lot of MAC makeup. I would say the majority of like my eyeshadow singles were from MAC. And I would just pick out whatever color appealed to me. I would always look at the new releases and think, okay, I want this one, this one, this one. And I would ask for them for Christmas or whatever holiday I could get presents for. And that's how I got my makeup, is through requesting it. I didn't have a job in high school. Thankfully, my parents kind of indulged me in makeup. And it didn't mean I had a lot, but when Sephora was able to, and Mac, you could buy things online, I was very excited to buy it, and I could just look at it online. I didn't have to have a store near me, which I did not. I did not have a Mac store near me. No Sephora near me in high school. That was not a thing. But I did use some brushes. I think I had a flat foundation brush that was synthetic. I think a lot of my brushes were synthetic, and I just don't remember them being great. The synthetic foundation brushes I have were kind of like this, but larger and not as good. But they were like flat brushes that just kind of like a paintbrush made you look very streaky. Otherwise, I was using my hands to apply foundation. Sponges were not a thing. If you had a sponge, it maybe looked like this, like a very basic, dense, synthetic latex sponge. I'm sure you guys have seen something like this. I mean, I didn't use anything like this, but this is kind of what came with like a powder compact. And you would just swipe on the powder and then put it on your face, which generally would apply a powder like a brush like this. But those were the kind of sponges people would use to apply whatever. But I was using my hands or something like this. It did not look great by any means whatsoever. Like I don't have a lot of pictures from back then. Like I think the digital age wasn't quite there yet. We weren't really using phones to take pictures back then. So I will probably struggle to find makeup like what I look like with makeup. I know I did a lot of makeup. It was very heavy. It was not blended, and it looked pretty bad, but I was still super into it. So let's just walk through what my usual routine would be. So there was no primers. I barely had a skincare routine. I might have put moisturizer on before foundation, most likely. No sunscreen was being put on at all, I don't think. I mean, I had some creams with like a low SPF in them, but that wasn't good enough. It wasn't lasting all day. So no primers, and I think for a long time I used a liquid Clinique foundation in high school. And eventually I switched to a tinted moisturizer from Laura Mercier for many years. Through college, that's what I used, is tinted moisturizers, because I didn't like how foundation looked on my skin. But in high school, I was using like one of the Clinique foundations that still exists today. Couple different versions. I think I made it look okay. But in middle school, I think I really had a hard time with the drugstore foundations, like the CoverGirl ones, the liquid ones, and the liquid powder, or the powders from CoverGirl looked terrible on me. And so much so that people commented, like, what's wrong with your face? I didn't get a lot of help in terms of makeup growing up. I just read magazines. I just tried to figure it out on my own. I don't think people in my family really took makeup seriously or felt like they needed to tell me what to do or give me any tips. My friends weren't really helping me, so yeah. It was not good. So there was no primer back then, really, but there was lots of there was foundations, but there wasn't the variety we had. And in terms of like finishes, I think there was always like a heavy foundation or a medium. I don't know how often they came out with light coverage foundations. I think eventually we moved to tinted moisturizers, but that was about it. I remember my sister going to get her makeup done and her face looking really white. So I remember shade matching being an issue for a lot of people back then, and in previous years it was even worse. And you know, it just felt like when you went to a makeup counter, you would get sold a lot of makeup that wouldn't necessarily suit you or look good. It just seemed like heavy on your skin. I know that was a complaint my sister felt like. I can't say I've ever really felt that in makeup, because I think by the early 2000s things had improved quite a bit. But I could still see where that would be a complaint, because the variety in finishes still wasn't where it is today. But I have a few options, which is probably similar to what they had back then. I have the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk, which is a beautiful foundation. It's not something I knew about or used back then, but this is kind of starting around that time frame when this became really popular. I mentioned the Laura Mercier tinted moisturizers. I don't have that with me. It's still sold. They have different varieties of it. I have something similar, an Aborian CC cream or the Junkay Just Skin tinted moisturizer. These probably actually look better than that Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer, because that was like barely any coverage, and I think it was a little bit too glowy for my combo skin. These are a little bit more coverage, so I'm probably gonna look better than I did back then. But I'm gonna start out with these products just to see. I would say the tinted moisturizer, although this is a lovely consistency, is probably more along the lines of what I was using back then. I could have gone out and bought all of the products that I used to use, but that's not something I wanted to do, to be honest. I feel like I already have enough makeup. I don't want to go back in time, really. I'm just saying I'm happy to be where we are today. Another thing back then I didn't do, I never wore concealer. I thought I didn't need it. I thought concealer was only for your under eyes, and I thought my under eyes looked fine. They did. They look much better than they do today, but today I use concealer. I probably could have used some though, for sure, but it just was never on my radar that I should be using a concealer. But they were available. I just didn't get it. I didn't think I needed it. Like, no one was telling me, hey, you should wear concealer. No one was telling me that. So this I applied with my hands, and that was probably, actually for sure, the Laura Mercier I applied with my hands because I liked it, because I could apply it with my hands, and it was very minimal effort for it to look blended into my skin. So that is what's happening with this foundation. Now, is it gonna last all day? No, but what I used to do, there was no setting powder, there was no translucent powder. There probably was, I just didn't think that's what I needed to put on my face after foundation. I wasn't using any cream products. I was using like a foundation powder on top of this. So it was like I was getting more coverage, but also like mattifying my face. I probably could have used something without color though. So this is the closest thing I have. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Skin Perfecting Micro Powder in No. 1 Fair. So this is probably the closest thing I have to like a powder foundation. It's not something I buy anymore, just because I don't need to add color to set or mattify my skin or take down the glow. There's so many other things now. So I think that's a huge win, because I don't really need a color powder on top of that tinted moisturizer. I mean, it looks fine. In terms of like a highlighter or blush, let's just start with highlighter first. So I think it was more towards 2006, early college for me. I started using a liquid highlighter from Benefit. It was the Benetint, or like the one of the light shimmery pink liquid formulas. And I would definitely use that quite a bit, and I would put it on top of powder. And people are starting to do that. I do have a couple of products that I think are kind of close to that Benefit product. Although I think this is a little more sheer, the Beautay Brightening CC Serum. This is the white rose one that is multi-purpose, and this is definitely more sheer. The Benefit one is a lot more highlighty, and you could see it from a mile away. Like, it was a very highlighty highlighter, liquid highlighter that kind of gave me a doll-like appearance. And I definitely dropped it on and applied it with my fingers. Another product that's probably similar but probably not the right color, the Junkay Liquid Lumiere. This is the liquid highlighter they have, and if it had like a pink tint, that would be close. This is a little bit more glowy, but this is what I would use as a highlighter when people weren't quite using highlighters yet. So I felt like I was ahead of my time, but I'm sure a lot of people was like, what is on your face? You know? So that was what I used for my complexion. I did use a blush, but there's no blush that really stands out to me of something that I would use all the time. I think I used a MAC blush. I think MAC blushes were very popular, and it's like you had your color. I don't really remember my color, or I know I used some NARS blushes, some bright pink ones. I was a big fan of NARS in high school. It was one of my first more like kind of luxury, nicer brands that I was using. So I did try the Orgasm palette in high school. I loved it. It was very shiny and shimmery. I probably way over applied it, I imagine. I went like a little bit nuts with my makeup. I'm sure it was like all over the place in the extreme. This might be something close. This is the Laura Mercier Rosé shade, and this is Blush Color Infusion. So I think I had like a MAC blush or a NARS blush, probably not quite this color, and I probably used my MAC powder brush to apply it. I was probably really heavy-handed with it, and I'm sure it was pretty ugly. For bronzer, I don't think I was using a bronzer in high school, to be honest. I don't remember what existed back then, if anything. I know MAC sold bronzers. Maybe I had one of those with some like glimmer in it. I'm trying to remember, and I'm not remembering. I feel like when bronzers were a thing, they weren't exactly new to me, but I definitely don't remember what I was doing with that kind of a product at all. I wish I kind of kept track of all the products I was using for this day, for this video. I know I did a massive declutter before I started my channel of just really old makeup that I held on for years. And I always felt like I couldn't buy a lot of stuff because I had all the stuff that I never finished. Well, I eventually was like, you know, a lot of this I never used. It's really old. I should throw it out. I wish I filmed that. I didn't. But that was like, a lot of that stuff was from high school and college, and it was interesting. I think that's kind of it for my complexion. Honestly, that's all I used. Probably a blush and highlighter, no bronzer, no contour. Might have put a little highlight here. This was popular for a long time, but I think that's kind of all I did. And, you know, very simple, right? Very youthful, fresh appearance. Although I looked a lot younger, so I felt like, I don't know, maybe I didn't need a lot else, but that was really all there was. Blushes and highlighters started becoming more popular. I know MAC had some like radiance powders or something like that. They had strobe cream, but I don't know that people are using it as a highlighter. But I had some really fun MAC face powders that I probably didn't know what I was doing with, but I probably put them all over my face, to be honest. Like, yeah, that looks pretty, put it all over. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so it's hard to know what to do next. So in high school, I was filling in my brows because I've always had a sparse eyebrow problem. So there was a few eyebrow pencils available, drugstore, higher end even. I'm trying to remember what I was using exactly in high school. There was no Anastasia Beverly Hills yet, I don't believe, especially in the mainstream. I think probably Benefit, but I wasn't using it, was around back in those days. I probably used something from the drugstore. I remember vividly going to MAC, my mom asking for a eyebrow pencil for herself. They didn't have any, none existed. They said, oh, we have this eyeshadow that you can use in your brows, and here's an angled eyeshadow, angled brush that you can apply it with. And it's like, what? She was like, that's all you have? They had no brow products at MAC. They do now. Of course, every brand has something now. But it wasn't a thing. Brows were not a big deal. If you didn't have them, they were really thin. You didn't try to fill them in. Maybe use a clear brow gel. I have some of that. This is from Essence, the clear lash and brow. Maybe people would put this in to kind of keep things in place. I might have used something like this. I don't remember. You know, my memory not so good. But this would be something I would probably use with a brow pencil. Brow pencils did exist. They have existed for a long time. They just weren't in the right shades. They weren't that great. I think I probably got something from the drugstore, if I remember correctly, or maybe Clinique. But nothing's really coming to mind what I was using in my brows. So some sort of brow pencil. I'm gonna go get my Benefit one because it's probably close to what I would use. So this is the Benefit Precisely My Brow Pencil, shade 3. This is the ultra fine. So probably not this fine as something you would get in the drugstore. Ow, this is really hard and dried out. Ooh, that hurts. Okay, probably should declutter this. Wow, I haven't used a brow pencil in a long time. I feel like this takes forever. But yeah, this is something I would do in high school because it's something I knew my mom did. She always filled in her brows. I think if you are really lacking something, you would notice. But most people that, you know, have normal brows are not sparse or born with sparse hairs. Not something you probably thought about too much. I know people have waxed their brows for years, so it always surprises me, like, how brows kind of became a new thing. The fact that this spoolie is on the pencil is a huge deal. I don't know that this quality of a spoolie came with a lot of brow pencils in the past. I don't remember them. But it's super helpful to kind of blend them out. Otherwise, if you just kind of stick a pencil through your brows, it can look really unnatural and unflattering. So the MAC's suggestion of putting an eyeshadow through your brows is actually not a bad idea if you don't have anything else. It's just fairly kind of a waste of an eyeshadow for use in an eyebrow, but it is certainly a way to go about filling them in with still looking pretty natural. So this is probably like a typical eyebrow look for me, and I probably put in a clear gel, maybe. Kind of remember doing this. This is a technique a lot of people still do. Just keep them in place, kind of staying upright. That way when they don't move around too much. Just gonna clean it off. Anyways, that's kind of the brows, and then I would go into a heavy dark eyeshadow. Not black, but like a dark coppery bronzy moment was my go-to for me in high school. And then of course liner, absolutely all the time, black, deep brown, a lot of black pencil eyeliner. Not that I was goth. I don't know why I thought that looked good, but it's something I did. And it wasn't always like a brown shadow, but it could have been like purple, a colorful eyeshadow. I love color. But I definitely like had a lot of fun with makeup in high school, especially on the eyes. Did it look great? I don't know. But that is absolutely what I did. And I had all single eyeshadows. I didn't really have any eyeshadow palettes. I might have had like a quad from MAC or like a 6-pan palette. I did have one of these palettes from Dior back in the day when they came out with these a long time ago. But it was like so natural that I never used it. But what I would get from MAC would look kind of something like this, is the extent of eyeshadow palette that I would get. This is from Zara. And a lot of them would be all shimmer. They wouldn't have like a mixture of mattes and shimmer like a palette like this would be today. Tom Ford, I don't think these existed back then, but this is the kind of palettes that they had until, of course, the Urban Decay Naked palette, then palettes blew up. But that, I don't think happened while I was in high school, or I wasn't aware of it. Like before the internet really exploded, which it really did start to explode when I was in high school. But, you know, YouTube, I don't know, was really popular yet. You know, makeup tutorials wasn't really a thing I knew about. And so the sharing of information has really helped everyone out. But for me back then, not really something I would do. So I would get like palettes like this, pop in single eyeshadows. This is from Makeup Forever, a little magnetic palette. And this is after that period, but something like this, or like, I mean, I didn't do magnetic palettes, but you know, palettes like this with single eyeshadows is what you would see. Now you can depot singles and put them in your own palettes and organize them however you want, but that's not something I did back then. I also didn't have, I had a lot of singles, but I kept them in their little containers. I didn't do this. I didn't know you could do this. But this is the vibe that I had. This is what I worked with forever, for years. And I would just look for random single shadows that looked pretty, and I would buy them. And there was no planning. There was no like, oh, I'm going to use this color with this color and this texture. It was like, no, just one single eyeshadow. This is an oldie from NARS, Callisto. Dual intensity eyeshadow. I don't know if they make this anymore. Primer I wasn't using. This is a MAC Painterly Paint Pot. Didn't use it back then, just thought I'd bring that up. But let's try to do a makeup look similar to what I would do on my eyes back in the day, and that's using a dark kind of bronzy eyeshadow here. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Nude. The name wore off, but this one right here is what I'm going to use. And I would use like a flat brush like this. And I think I would almost get it wet too. And just concentrate it in one area in the shape of my eyelid. I think the color would be even darker than this. And I would just keep it right in here. And that would be the eyeshadow I would use, and I would only put it at the top. I wouldn't put anything under here, and there was like no blending. Like that would be it. Now it doesn't look terrible. Let me make it look a little bit darker. So I thought it looked okay, and you know, at the surface it looks fine. But is it the most flattering to have this shape without blending? Not really. This is what people were doing? Know that a magazine, which is what I read to learn beauty, like Allure and Cosmo Girl in high school, that's what I was reading. I don't know that you could teach people in a magazine how to blend eyeshadow. It just doesn't really work. So I was just looking at products people were using in magazines and just trying to copy placement, really. But I wasn't really paying attention that closely. So to me, like, this looked fine. It's pretty uneven, it's not blended. I mean, I want to so badly fix this, but this is like what my makeup was like. I think it's sad, but kind of funny. I might have put like a light color up here. I don't really remember doing that, but it's possible that's something I did. I'm just trying to make this look a little bit prettier. And I probably used a brush, not my finger. But yeah, just a swipe there, pretty fast, right? A lot faster than I do eyeshadow today. Okay, liner, I was using black pencil, so let's use something like that. I was also using a lot of black liquid liner. I wasn't doing wings, but I was just using it because it lasted long. So I had the Stila black eyeliner that's worn off the label. Urban Decay was another eyeliner that was popular. They had a lot of colored eyeliners. This is the Glide On 24/7 eye pencil. But I'm going to use the Pat McGrath, which didn't exist then, Extreme Black. I was using MAC eyeliners, the kohl pencils. Those were great. I actually like those a lot. But I'm going to use these to line my entire eye. And I feel like the eyeliner made me look so much older than I really was. Even though my skin looked so much better, I was a lot thinner and there was no wrinkles happening. But this is the kind of eye look you would see me wearing pretty regularly. I think I wore something like this even in my senior picture. I mean, this makes me look old for reals, but I don't think I would ever have cleaned this up. So it definitely would have gone on my waterline, but not on purpose. So kind of grungy, right? Imperfect eyeliner happening. I never really applied stuff on my waterline, but if it happened to go there, it happened to go there. I'm gonna go ahead and put on some mascara. Now, back in the day, mascara for me, I know in college Dior Show was what I would buy on repeat, like the big fat wand, those full lashes I used to get from it. Like, it was great. I don't think I could use it today. But I'm going to use an old school formula. This is from Lancome Definicolous. This is going to be more about lengthening. It's a little sample wand here. I think my lashes have deteriorated since I was in high school. I think I used to get better results from mascara, to be honest, than I do today. I don't know what it is, what happened, but the hair on my lashes is not as good as it used to be. And I definitely was a clumpy mascara applier. I don't know, if any of what I'm saying resonates with you, comment below. I would appreciate it. I don't want to feel alone how I used to apply my makeup. Some of you may think, hey, this looks great. This is how I apply my makeup. Well, honestly, it's fine. Like, no one's not hurting anybody by applying it this way. It's just a difference in products and techniques. It's a lot less product used, which is great. It's a lot faster. But I think the eyeliner all the way around the eye, especially in this deep dark color, against my skin tone with the you know, pretty deep eyeshadow that's not blended and kind of like imperfect does make me look quite a bit older. And it's fine if you want to do that when you're young, you can get away with it. Me in my mid-30s now, that's a pretty, not as flattering, but honestly I think this look is really popular among a lot of women. Just sweeping on some eyeshadow, doing a little liner and mascara, and call it a day. I mean, it is very feminine, but it's not quite as polished, perfected, blended. It doesn't look very smooth, you know what I mean? Like, it just looks like I have some rough edges around my eyes, in particular in the eyeshadow at least too. So yeah, I mean, here we are. For lips, I was definitely a gloss girl all through high school, and really light glosses. Nothing dark, nothing nude, no lip liner, no lipstick, none of that. I was using probably a clear gloss most of the time. I use the lip gloss from MAC a lot, the clear one, and maybe a couple colors. I have just a clear gloss that I have from Floss. It's typically what I use. I'm going to use something a little bit more sparkly. This is from Pat McGrath, and this is the Future Femme Lust Gloss. Has a little bit of glitter in it, but it's very natural looking. Not natural. This isn't natural, but just very light in color, and absolutely something I would, close to what I would have used in high school with this eye look, which does not look so good. I think even a clear gloss would probably look better, but that's kind of it in terms of the makeup that I put on my face. There was no setting powder, even though I probably could have used some wearing my makeup all day and at night. That's it. This is my high school makeup, all done. What do you guys think? I actually like the way my complexion looks. I don't think it would, I think my skin's gotten better since high school, even though I have wrinkles, not as young and perky looking. I got some sagging issues, but my overall complexion looks better. I think the tinted moisturizer I was using back then, or the foundations I were using, were probably just fine. I think this is the face is flattering. It's not like the best my face has looked. I feel like my forehead looks really large because there's no bronzer or contour up here to kind of help make it look smaller. And I definitely feel like the eye makeup is what really ages me. But it's just not very crisp and clean, and like what kind of style of makeup I do today. I mean, I think overall most of you probably wouldn't complain if this is something that looks somewhat similar to what you guys do now. I don't want to hate on it too much because it's not that bad. But I just think like techniques and just the overall polished look of how we do makeup now it's just amazes me so much. So I'm going to take some photos of what's happening here, and then I want to go over a little bit of what categories that I kind of forgot about that exist now that didn't exist before. Alright, so I just took some photos, and I think it really highlighted how bad this makeup is, at least on the skin I have now. So because there's no concealer under here, you guys can really see the texture, crepiness, the aging happening. There's no smoothness that concealer really provides that I didn't really realize until I took photos of not using concealer, just how much of a difference it makes in the under eye area. Also, looking up close, the brows are so lightly filled in that my face looks out of balance to how I normally see it in photos with a full face of makeup. It looks out of balance, and that like all the makeup is right here, and I don't have like a fuller brow to kind of balance out this level of eyeliner. So it just looks like very funny to me. I also think the blush kind of looks like self-tanner bronzer, but it's not. It's interesting. Also, the frosty eyebrow I'm not really appreciating as much, and then the light lip color is just a no-go with this warm eyeshadow. It's just, I think about makeup in such a different way. I just wanted to highlight that. Here we are, my pile of makeup that exists now, or the types of makeup I try to put in categories just to walk through a little bit. Like foundation, we were talking about application. I use sponges so much now, not something I ever thought about using before. Also, these shapes did not exist. They were flat, they were wedges, but nothing in this sort of shape that was meant to be dampened with water. Foundations, there's so many varieties of finishes and types. This is a gel foundation, this is high coverage, this is a water foundation. Cushions didn't exist. This is from Asia, you know, borrowed from their ideas, but something that wasn't available before. Primers weren't really a thing. Color correctors, eye primers, glow products that you can use in different ways, not a thing. Concealers have been around. This also belongs over here. This is a tinted serum. Concealers have been around for some time. Stick concealers have existed. Creams, but there's a variety of like radiance pens and enhancers are available now. It's pretty great. Also, I think high coverage concealer became a huge deal, which I'm not sure the variety of concealer finishes that existed before. This is a variety of lip, products. Lipstick has been around forever, but there are so many different types of finishes. Matte liquid lipsticks became hugely popular, including lip liners, lip tints, long-lasting lip formulas. There's just so much that wasn't a thing before, including cream products. The amount of cream blushes available is pretty crazy. Of course, there's still powders and different finishes and shimmery, matte, whatever. So much stuff here. Even single eyeshadows took a turn towards creamy or gel, glitter, multi-chrome eyeshadows did not exist before. I mean, the variety of what's available. Also, obviously, a big thing is palettes. Eyeshadow palettes continue to be a huge craze. And face palettes is another thing that just wasn't as much of a big deal as it is now. Setting spray. This has lasted for a long time. People used it to set their makeup, but it wasn't really, I don't think, what this product was meant for. This is from MAC Fix Plus, but there's also all kinds of setting sprays these days. This is the Glow Recipe one, and this is not focusing. Setting powder obviously became a big deal. Finishing powders, blushes, bronzers, huge deal. Cream bronzers, powder bronzers, bronzers. I could go on and on, really. I could talk about this all day. Highlighting, huge deal. Liquid, powder. We wanted to shine forever. We talked about brows. There's brow gels, still brow pencils, clear brow gels. Now there's brow lamination products. This is the Brow Freeze. Eyeliners. Victoria Beckham, Chanel are some good ones. So many different types of mascaras these days. It's a lot of fun. Like, honestly, I'm just really grateful for all the types of products available to us these days. I think we're at peak beauty. I think since the pandemic, we've kind of hit probably, I don't know, as high as we're gonna go in terms of people's interest in makeup. I think, honestly, the makeup interest, I feel like, has gone down since I imagine people aren't wearing it as much, with the fact that they have to wear masks a lot, maybe at work, or they're just at home a lot and they're not on camera, no one sees them, so they don't feel the need to put on makeup or do their hair. So I feel like, you know, the interest is dying a little bit with just the way our world is changing. But I still hope that for some of you diehard beauty fans out there, that you still continue to love playing in makeup, even if you may not wear it every day. Like me, I don't wear it every day anymore like I used to when I was going into the office. But I still find it super, super enjoyable, and I just am so appreciative of all the changes that have occurred in the beauty world so that all these products can exist. And I think even though it's a lot more time consuming to applying makeup to your face today with all the different products, I think our makeup honestly looks better overall. Some trends don't make us look better. But overall, I think we just realize that we need more of a balance in our skin, and to not be afraid to ask for something that you like. And I think your preferences have become really important in terms of makeup. Like, you don't have to like a full coverage foundation anymore. There's so many options for you. If you want your skin to peek through, there's options for you. If you don't want to see your skin at all, there's options for you. I mean, and in terms of eyeshadow, you can get away with not wearing any and just focus on your complexion and you're good to go. You don't have to go full glam, and honestly, it's not always going to look that flattering, because I think I was trying to do a glam moment. I don't know. I think this is a harsh eye makeup look, especially at my age now. Not so good. Anyways, what kind of makeup techniques, what makeup were you guys using back in high school, back in the day? Like, what were you absolutely loving? Do you remember the products that you were using? Please comment below. If you like this video, click the thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.